YouTube. I'm just here packing up a bunch of things for a friend of mine, and I thought I would go over just some like packing tips for packing up livestock, so any kind of live animal. In this particular shipment, it's mostly supplies like leaves and random things that I happen to have, but there are two live insects in here. One of them is just mealworm beetles, which is a feeder, so he can start his own colony. But I figured nonetheless I can go over some tips for anyone else doing, you know, trading feeder insects or whatever to friends, or selling their parts of their isopod colonies or whatever if you get overrun. So first off, what you want to start with is any animal that you're sending, whether it is an invertebrate or you're sending a reptile or an amphibian, whatever it is you're sending, you should not feed them at least 24 hours before they're going to be packaged and put in the mail, just because the bumpy ride can cause them to throw up and get sick. So no matter what kind of animal, they should not be fed for 24 hours prior to shipping. They should, however, be offered water, have water available to them up until the moment they go in their shipping container and into the shipping box. When you ship your animals, something small, a container that is small, like really small for the animal, is fine. They're only going to be in the mail anywhere from 24 hours to, I guess, 3 days or so, depending on what it is you're shipping and how you're shipping. So something that's small, pretty small for the animal, is just fine. This is going to save you shipping costs. You're not going to need as big as a box or as much padding or anything, so it's going to cut down on your shipping costs for that reason. But also, a small container is going to prevent your animal from sliding around so much, where it could potentially get hurt while it's in this container in the mail. So just to give us some examples, this is pretty packed up, so I don't want to like open everything. But this little container here, it's not very big. You can see there's a little aspen bedding in there, but it fits in my hand pretty good. This is the container that my 1-year-old corn snake was shipped in. And when I got him, he was, well, I didn't measure him right when I got him, but he just had his first shed since I got him, and he now measures 22 inches long. So he's pretty big. I have a video of me unpacking him if you just kind of want to get an idea. But I mean, he was in here and he filled a good deal of the container. I mean, he could move around a bit and hide under the aspen, but you know, not so much room that he's just me sloshing around in there during shipping. So, but that was his container. My leopard gecko, when I bought her at a reptile show, was in something about this size as well. So you don't need anything too big. If you're just sending some insects, a simple little sauce cup is fine. You know, something that's about this big by that big for about a single millipede. I've seen, you know, little sauce cups like this big, you know, that big around, about that tall. Small colony of about 20 little isopods put into one of those for shipping. Put a lot of mealworms in something like that. Like I said, you don't need anything huge. So, and then after you have your container picked out and everything, obviously depending on the type of animal is going to depend on the type of needs that you need to send them with. For most reptiles, something similar, you know, something, oh man, really? Something as simple as just, you know, a paper towel or a little bit of their bedding is going to be fine. But if you're shipping something that does need a constant supply of high humidity, such as a frog or isopods or millipedes or anything like that, you want to put a very damp, a very, very wet paper towel in there. I have even seen frogs shipped with a little bit of standing water. Not much, just a little thin film of standing water, just enough to cover the very bottom of their container, and then they had some paper towel on top of that and a crumpled piece of paper towel to hide under, and that seems to work well for keeping humidity for something like a frog or a salamander. For something like a millipede or an isopod, just a few pieces of crumpled paper towel that's nice and damp is sufficient. Now, there are a few livestock things that you might send that are going to need food. Things that eat insects, certain insects and invertebrates which eat very rapidly, and that you need to have a place for them to get food or water for to make them happy during shipping is going to be important. Mealworms, superworms, mealworm beetles, superworm beetles, if they do not have a water source at all times, they will eat each other. So for something like that, you're going to want to put a little slice of carrot in their container when you ship them. Isopods and millipedes, I mean, they're going to get their water from chewing on the damp paper towel. But it doesn't hurt to give them, you know, just a few pieces of ripped up leaves and, you know, and or a little piece of carrot for them to munch on during shipping. They don't seem to have any problems getting sick in transport. They're very adorable. So for something like that, you might even want it. So once your animal's all packed up, you got holes in here, you got, you know, some way of keeping humidity in there if you need it, and, you know, necessary munchies for certain invertebrates. You're going to want to take some newspaper here. I'm just going to use this container as an example that I had out. But we're going to take some newspaper, and you just kind of want to wrap very gently, keeping your container facing up. You want to wrap the container. I'm trying to do this with one hand. There we go. But you want to wrap the container in one or two pieces, one or two layers of newspaper. This is really good padding, and it's also really good insulation, and it's going to keep it nice and dark and make your animals feel a little bit more secure. Again, when you're doing this, make sure you're keeping the container facing up. Don't be tilting the animal, you know, don't be wrapping it and tilting them all around, upside down and sideways, and sticking them in long ways in the container and whatnot. Things like isopods, beetles, millipedes, centipedes, it's not nearly as much of a big deal, especially if you got a bunch of crumpled paper towel in there. They're going to really be able to cling on, and they're not going to just fall off and, you know, hitting the sides, because they'll be packed pretty tight. Something like that, not nearly as big of a deal, but if you're shipping something like a reptile or a praying mantis, a frog, anything like that, they are not going to appreciate being flipped upside down and put in, you know, in the box sideways or anything like that. You're going to have a very unhappy camper. It could stress them actually to the point that they die in shipping. So try to keep your containers facing up when you're wrapping them in newspaper. You'll see here that I have one container right here that's wrapped in newspaper. This is a wheel bug under there. And then the mealworm beetles are actually on the very, very bottom. They have a nice flat little container with some plenty of paper towel for them to cling on to. For insects, I always give them either lay a small piece of paper towel flat in their container, and that it, you know, it's curving up along the sides and everything, or I put them one or two pieces of crumpled paper towel for them to hold on to and crawl on and hide in and whatnot, and that protects them just fine during shipping and prevents them from sliding all over the place in their container. For a reptile, again, depending what you have, a little piece of paper towel on the bottom, crumpled paper towel, some of their bedding is sufficient to give them a place to kind of help hold on and prevent them from sliding around on just, you know, a smooth plastic bottom or anything. Any kind of container will do. This is like a little deli cup A lot of breeders orders these. Again, the little like 2-ounce sauce cups, you see them sold a lot for feeding crested gecko diet in because they're disposable, but they usually come with lids depending where you get them. Any kind of little like food storage containers. You can buy bags for larger reptiles like adult snakes and whatnot. And they're just they're a heavy cloth bag. Air can still get through it and everything. And they have really good ties to keep them in. That's typically used for bearded dragons as well. But you could even get a really, a good size, like a large, something that's like this long. I'm probably about, counting the corner here, about, that wide or whatever, and maybe like that high of a food storage container even, for something a little larger. And that will work just as well as a bag. So it's really up to you. So once you got your container picked out, you got your animals packed, they haven't been fed for at least 24 hours before shipping, you got the containers wrapped in your newspaper, it's time to pack them in your box. The way you pack your box, what else you put in the box, is going to depend on the time of year, and the shipping conditions, and of course what you're shipping. The most standard way to ship a reptile is to actually get pieces of foam about this thick, and they're just flat pieces, and you would cut them to the width, and then you would, I'm trying to think how to say this, you would cut them to the size of your box. So you'd put a piece that covers the entire bottom, and you'd have a piece that covers the entire top. Plus you'd have a piece on all 4 sides of the box that span the entire side and the entire depth of the box, which is a nice fully insulated. And then from there, the animal is usually wrapped in newspaper and stuck in there, and then either newspaper is padded around the animal within that to prevent the cup, again, from sliding around and giving them too rough of a journey, or these packing peanuts. These white ones I actually got is what my was packed around my pygmy chameleon's cup. So he had the foam on all 4 sides, the top and the bottom, and then his cup was buried in packing peanuts. So it all depends on the time of year. I just have 2 insects in here, so they're just wrapped in newspaper, and then I filled all the holes in the box with these packing peanuts. The packing peanuts, this one I have in my hand is actually made of cornstarch. So it's completely biodegradable. You can melt it in hot water and flush it down the drain. You can put it in a compost pile. You can let your cats or ferrets play with it, and if they eat it, it's not going to hurt them. So that's nice. But these white ones here are foam, and they're going to provide insulation as well as padding and preventing anything from sliding around. For invertebrates, most people just wrap the animals' cups in 1 or 2 layers of newspaper, and then put a whole bunch of crumpled newspaper packed in around those cups as the insulation and the padding to prevent the cups from sliding. And then, unless it's a really cold month, they don't even, for invertebrates, put the foam on all 4 sides, the top and the bottom. It's, again, it all depends on what you're shipping. But for reptiles, definitely, I would definitely suggest the foam on all 4 sides, the top and the bottom, and then, again, newspaper or packing peanuts for really good insulation, really good padding. If it's a warmer month, newspaper may just be fine. Use your best judgment. If it's a really hot month, like you're in the middle of the summer, you're probably going to want to include a chemical cold pack, which is just, it causes a chemical reaction, which is giving off, it's not even giving off heat technically, it's absorbing heat, so it's nice and cold like an ice pack, and it lasts for a couple of hours. Take one of those, activate it, wrap it in a paper towel or a piece of newspaper, and then put it into your box. Do not put the cold pack directly against any of the cups containing animals. It should not be in direct contact with the animals themselves. If it's a colder month, you're going to want to use a hot pack, which I got an example here. These little hot hand warmers, you just take them out, shake them up, they're activated by air, and then again, you would take this, wrap it in a piece of newspaper, place it in the box, and again, not directly against any of the animal's cups. So I have everything packed, everything here is ready to go, for the most part. I don't know if I can close this with one hand or not. I probably packed a little too much packing peanut in there. I mean, everything closes pretty good, don't have the sound of squishing, but I'm not going to press down hard on the lid. So do not press down hard on your lid. Do not force it closed. If there's a little bit of a gap here or whatever from all the padding, that's not a huge deal. That could be a huge deal if it's a really cold month or anything. The better your seal dough in general, the better it's going to trap the heat or the cold from your hot pack or cold pack in there. In this case, it is perfect bug sending weather. So it's really good livestock shipping weather right now. So it's really comfy for what's in here, so it's not a big deal for me. But I'm going to put 1 or 2 layers of tape straight across here. And then I'm going to actually cut a piece of tape that's going to run along here. So it's actually going to run the sides. And then it'll be folded over, so it's going to hold this side down, preventing any of the packing peanuts from falling out of there. Since I do have a bit more of a gap, it's going to hold down the ends of your straight piece of tape and just, you know, make it overall more secure. And then I also drew on these arrows just to indicate which side is up. When this goes to the post office, you know, the mail carrier will be informed that there is, you know, that this is a rush order. I will be sending it priority mail, so it should take a maximum of 3 days. I've used this shipping method before for insects, never had a problem. But they will be informed that there is perishables in here. They don't need to know what, just that there is something that can spoil, rot, or die in the box. So they will actually mark it with a this side up arrow, as well as put a notice on here that there is perishable goods in here. So the mail carrier will know to be extra careful with this box and not to throw it around in the truck or anything. So, now one thing I just wanted to point out here before I finish up that I've had a lot of people, I've seen a lot of people ask about is, well, you know, obviously there's holes in whatever cup you're shipping your animal in. There's obviously holes, but, you know, that's wrapped in newspaper, and then you got newspaper packed around the newspaper, or, you know, and that's packed in foam, and or there's peanuts in there, and then they're taped up in a box. How can they breathe? And the simplest thing I can tell you is that boxes are not airtight. Keep that in mind. Boxes are not airtight. There is air getting in along the sides. There's air getting in on all the corners. There's air getting in at the top sides and corners of the top and the bottom. There is no need to punch holes in your box. And punching holes in your box is going to allow your heat or your cold from your hot or cold packs to escape. So your temperature inside the box is not going to be as regulated. So your animal could heat up or cool down very rapidly, very, very easily if you got holes in the box. And that could cause them to die. So there's no need to punch holes. They can breathe. Just trust me, air is getting inside this box. Even with me taping down this side here, air is still getting into the box. This is only my 3rd livestock package that I personally am mailing, but I've received quite a bit of livestock packages myself. And, you know, they've all been sealed up. I actually got one where it had 2 pieces of tape here, 2 pieces of tape along both of the sides, plus all of this. Like these long sides where there's it's not necessary to have tape, was taped. And it was the exact same way on the bottom of the box. So it was taped up really good. It was really secure. But there was still enough air coming in through these corners that my animal was able to breathe just fine. That air was able to circulate around the box a little bit and still get in, you know, get through the newspaper, in between the folds in the newspaper. I have yet to have a dead on arrival either shipped to me or shipped out to somebody else. And usually if there is a dead on arrival animal, it is because you did not, it's usually due to a temperature issue. Either you didn't put enough padding in, or you didn't use a hot pack or a cold pack as appropriate, or you sent the box out for your particular animal at too slow of a shipping speed. Reptiles should always be sent overnight shipping. Always. Certain invertebrates are going to need overnight shipping. Very expensive, but it's necessary to make sure that they're going to arrive alive because they are a little bit more touchier. Isopods are heat intolerant, so they tend to die at temperatures a little past 80. So for anything like that that's going to be temperature sensitive or really sensitive to, or can't go really long without getting water or whatever, is going to need to be sent overnight shipping. Alright? If you have any questions, feel free to ask.